Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We are back on our series of the IGGERET HAGRA, Baruch Hashem. It's been a little while since we talked about the extraordinary letter by the Gaon of Vilna that he wrote to us just in the last couple of hundred years. Tonight's Shiur will be for a refuah shlema for all of Klal Yisrael, B'ezrat Hashem. Of course, and for the special names we say each week, my Rabbanit Levana, Bat Sarah, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Avi Mori David ben Nesriya, Imi Morati Doris Bat Jora, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba for Marsha Bat Julie, Ayla Bat Marsha, Samuel ben Marsha, Cephas ben Marsha, Alexander ben Marsha, Louis ben Marsha. And also as a special dedication for my dear mother and my dear wife, Kadosh Baruch Hu Yivarech Otam B'Kol Mikol Kol, with B'ezrat Hashem the merit of this and all of the shiurim that we do be for them, but especially this one, as we're going to talk about some issues that will give us a little bit of a different perspective of how much appreciation we need to have for righteous women that do the will of Hashem. So now we have the Gaon of Vilna teaching us week after week the extraordinary IGGERET, the IGGERET HAGRA that has really been publicized throughout all of Klal Yisrael, whether it's the Sfaradim or the Ashkenazim, whether it's the people that have been religious for a short period of time or for their whole lives. Many people have studied this letter time and time again. Many have written books about it and and quoted it in different sparim. But really, when a person that's not very familiar with the Gaon of Vilna, when a person is, needless to say, not familiar with real Torah that's revitalizes the neshama, they'd ask you, what are you going to study every letter? What's the big deal? It's just a letter. It's a letter that the Gaon of Vilna wrote to his family. I mean, you really need to make 30, 40 shiurim about one single letter? Okay, one shiur, you want to talk about it. Perhaps you want to quote it somewhere, but a whole series of lectures about a single letter. And of course, anyone that has watched the last 30 or so lectures about this series knows exactly why we need to study this, just like the Chachamim said in the Gemara, that the idle conversations of the sages need to be studied. Needless to say, they're conversations of Torah. And of course, this letter is full of Torah, full of Mussar, that the Gaon of Vilna gave to tzaddikim, to his own family. But needless to say, is things that we can learn from each and every single word that he chose to put in this letter is something that could really waking up a person that's spiritually asleep. Now, the Gaon of Vilna had a lot of different things that were discussed, whether it's in the beginning of the letter where he warned us about idle talk. Somebody asked me just the other day, what does it mean, idle talk? Is it something specific? Of course, it's always better to watch the shiurim, and that way a person will get all of the answers in detail. But in so many words, idle talk is what people do most of their day if they're not glued to the Torah and to the Chachamim, where they simply speak about things that are either a complete waste of time, such as sports, the markets, the economy, what they think is going to happen in the future. Sometimes what they think is going to happen in the future is what their predictions about Mashiach, or their predictions about the economy, their predictions about the elections, or some type of hunger that may or may not come that's being predicted in every generation, and all types of nonsensical talks that really have no value in anybody's life. I always try to discourage people that I think would listen from wasting their time listening to any of these talks, regardless of who it's by, that talk about the future a lot. Too much of the future of this is going to happen and that's going to happen and this is going to happen, where in a sense that they're not talking about the things that are mentioned in the Torah, but rather their own personal predictions of, oh, the economy will go up, the economy will go down, this president will be elected, this one will not be elected, you should do this now already to prepare for the future. And of course, there's an endless amount of demand for such talk out there, because people want to. People are afraid of the unknown. They're afraid of the future, and everyone wants to be prepared for the future. And some of the most watched videos, movies, and so on are things that do talk about the future. And of course, the validation, that scam that goes into it, is that people find one video or one book that mentioned something 20 or 30 years ago that happened to be right to a certain extent, and therefore that justifies them spending their lives watching predictions of the future. The truth is that if anybody wants to know the future, they should just simply learn Torah, because Torah is going to tell you not only what you need to do, but also what happened in the past when people did not do what they were supposed to do. And as Shlomo HaMelech says, nothing new under the sun. Everything that happened is going to happen. Even the plagues that we saw in Egypt are going to happen again at the time of Mashiach. We know that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he brings Mashiach eventually, the Chachamim tell us specifically that the things that we've seen in the past, as far as the glory of Hashem and the extraordinary miracles and wonders, will be surpassed with what is going to actually transpire at the time of Mashiach. Hence the reason why we don't really get so excited when something happens that people like to talk about, whether it be a war or it be some type of anomaly here and there, because we know that if it was really Mashiach, it would be much bigger. It would be much bigger than than what we think it is. It wouldn't be something you need to look into. Once Mashiach is going to come, everyone is going to know. But needless to say, people spend a lot of time talking about things that really have no value. Even worse, when people talk about other people. And because when you talk about other people, what ends up happening, unless you are warning people about other people that are bad for them, either because they are dangerous physically or dangerous spiritually, like some of the heretics that are out there, unfortunately. These talks about other people, your friends, your family, different people in the news, in Hollywood. These are a waste of time at best, and at worst it becomes lashon hara, or becomes rechilut, which is gossip. And of course, these are all sins. So the Gaon of Vilna started off the letter with this very, very strong warning, saying that even for idle talk, meaning not even forbidden talk, not even lashon hara and rechilut, but simple idle talk, a person will have to suffer the punishment of going to kafakela, which is atrocious punishment. Anyone that doesn't know what that is, simply go to our app, on the Bezrat Hashem app, and type in on the search box Kafakela, Kafhakela. You'll see the lecture over there. It's several hours giving you details of what Kafakela actually is, according to our Chachamim, according to hundreds and hundreds of sources that were reviewed in preparation of that shiur. And of course, this is not even 1% of the amount of sources that are actually out there to discuss this topic. But needless to say, a person that understands what kafakela is also gets to an understanding of what he wants to, what he needs to do, and what she needs to do in order to avoid it. But many times people end up falling into a trap of watching a television program or some type of video out there, or some type of conversation they have with their friend or family, and before they know it, they spent an hour and a half wasting their time, and unfortunately earning themselves not so many merits, to say the least. So this was one thing that the Gaon of Vilna started off with. Then he went into discussing education. Education for the girls, how critical it is to educate the girls to be modest. He does not talk about educating the girls to be Torah scholars like some of these reform organizations are that call themselves Orthodox, but in reality they're 100% reform and going against all of the traditions of Am Yisrael, where all of a sudden it has become of utmost importance for these rabbis to teach women Gemara and give them a smicha because they want them to become rabbaniot, but they call them rabbis. Of course, this is the opposite of what Am Yisrael has taught for the last 3,000 plus years, but nonetheless, this is the world of lies, as the Chachamims call it, Alma de Shikra. Even HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls it the world of lies. It's an upside down world, so you're going to see a lot of strange things. And sometimes you're going to see people with good intentions end up in bad places because of ego, because of lack of direction, because of lack of guidance or the wrong guidance. And unfortunately, this is where the Gaon of Vilna tells us that the path for the women is to focus on being the most righteous woman in a sense of being modest, making sure that she builds a Torah home where she has is very supportive of her husband learning as much Torah as humanly possible. Our kids are getting the best Torah education, even if that means they're not going to have money for a vacation, even if that means they have to live in a smaller house, even if that means they have to cut corners in different places just to make sure that those couple of things are done. The kids are educated with the best Torah education. The husband has more than enough time to learn Torah and can learn Torah at its best. And of course, she has all the modest clothes that she needs. And it's praiseworthy is the man who is generous with his wife to make sure that she gets as much modest clothes as she wants, just to make sure that she feels good and also is spiritually healthy. Now, of course, there are going to be people that will say, yeah, but I can do things differently. And of course, we know where that ends up. Anyone that thinks they're going to do things differently than what the Torah says, anyone thinks that they're smarter than the sages, usually does not end up anywhere near where they need to be. And of course, they don't even end up being where they think they're going to be. The Gaon of Vilna then went into teaching us about the importance of men learning Torah, how critical it is. Many people are struggling with their day-to-day lives, with not realizing that the struggle is due to their lack of Torah learning, either because they're breaking the law due to their lack of Torah, or they simply don't have the blessing on their parnasah, on their shlom bayit, on their raising of the kids because they're not learning Torah. Torah is something that is not another subject to learn. Torah is life. And the more a person learns it and the more a person applies it to their life, the more they realize it. Or they can get to be such a person that thinks that he knows better than the Chachamim and simply does not want to listen to what the Chachamim say. He could just customize things and literally go in a horrible direction, like this one fellow that unfortunately has run away from God in full speed over the last couple of years, calling himself religious just a few years ago, and today he sends me a picture. I'm not really sure why, but he sends me a picture with a writing under it that he's throwing a book of Torah, in the garbage. Of course, it's sad. It's sad to see that people deteriorate to such extent, but nonetheless, it all starts with just a corner that a person cuts that is not the way that you're supposed to. When a person thinks that he's more merciful than God, he's wiser than the Chachamim, that he's simply more righteous than anybody else he knows, and he starts making, or she starts making, their own rules. Unfortunately, that path only leads to Gaon. So the Gaon of Vilna made sure that we understand the importance of learning Torah. Of course, there are many, many other things in between all of this, but now we're reaching the next point. The next point, after discussing the importance of study and good manners and so on, is now kibud em, the honoring of one's mother. The Gaon of Vilna is almost finished with this letter, or we are almost finished with this letter. We only probably have another 1 or 2 shulim beyond this to complete this entire monumental series. And the Gaon of Vilna says the following: אהובתי אמי, ידעתי שאינך צריכה למוסר שלי, כי ידעתי כי צנועה את. My beloved mother, I know that you don't need my Mussar, because I know that you are exceedingly modest. אף על פי כן יקראו לפנייך האיגרת הזאת, כי הם דברי אלוקים חיים. Nevertheless, this letter should be read to you, for its words are words of the living God. ומבקש אני מאוד ממך בבקשה שטוחה, שלא תצטערי בשבילי כאשר הבטחת לי. And I beg of you, with a pleading request, not to have sorrow about me, as you promised me. This is in regards to him leaving, because this whole letter is a letter. For anyone who doesn't know, this letter is, in essence, a letter of instructions for the family, but also a goodbye, because the Gaon of Vilna was journeying to Eretz Yisrael. And if Hashem wills it, ואם ירצה השם, אם אזכה להיות בירושלים עיר הקודש אצל שער השמיים, if I merit to stand in the holy city of Yerushalayim at the very gate of heaven, אבקש בעדך כאשר הבטחתי, ואם נזכה נראה יחדיו כולנו, אם ירצה בעל הרחמים. I will pray for you as I promised, and if we merit it, we shall all be reunited, if it be the will of the Master of Mercy. Up to this section is what we're going to, Be'ezrat Hashem, discuss tonight. Of course, there is endless amount of material that B'siyata Dishmaya is connected to this, but we'll try Be'ezrat Hashem to cover some ground and really try to hit different corners and apply them to our day-to-day lives. We all have mothers, some of us have wives, some of us have husbands, some of us have children, boys, girls. But needless to say, all of us have seen the struggle that mothers go through to raise a home. Even more so if you're trying to raise a Torah home, where you have all types of distractions, all types of Yetzer Hara trying to interfere into your home, trying to interfere with your children, trying to interfere with your marriage, trying to interfere with the way you manage your day-to-day life. Suddenly, when it comes to your life, everyone has an opinion. The more religious you are, the more connected you are to Hashem, the more people are going to try to interfere at times. Whereas if you're living like a behemah, you're living like some animal, generally people don't have much advice. Why? Simple. They live just like you, so they don't have anything to guide you on, because they themselves don't know what to do. But when you live opposite to them, when you live a Torah-based life, when modesty is the foundation of your home, when Torah is the foundation of your home, when God is the foundation of your home, people that are not necessarily secular, but not necessarily as committed, find this strange. Why isn't money the primary focus? Why isn't popularity and having many friends the primary focus? Why isn't expanding and getting bigger and acquiring more stuff the primary focus? Because generally speaking, that's what you see in the world. So, of course, Abutai, these types of distractions, these types of Yetzer Hara come to all of us. Different forms, different sizes, different times. But the reality is that you need to know that you're not alone. Even if you're a Bachur in Yeshiva, you're a 13, 14-year-old Bachur, one of these great tzaddikim that sends me messages at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because your Yetzer Hara is trying to attack you and you need some chizuk. If you're one of these tzaddikim that's been containing himself and protecting their breed for the last 4, 5, 6, 7 months, 2 years, 3 years. If you're one of these tzaddikim that took on himself to learn the Shas every single day, perhaps even do what the 4 tzaddikim did last year and complete the Shas in 1 year. If you're one of these tzaddikim that took on learning Mussar every day, if you're one of these tzaddikim that really understands their place and knows that how much you need Mussar even more now than you did when you first started. The more you grow in Torah, the more Mussar you need. If you're one of these people, this is also relevant to you. Because as you obviously know, The Yetzer Hara comes to you also. It comes to you with boys, comes to you with girls. The boys want you to not learn. The boys want you to go play basketball or football or some other sport or video games, Hashem Yishmor. All the boys want you to do everything but go learn Torah. You tell them, I want to listen to the rabbi's lecture. They tell you, listen, just do it later, or he's too fanatic, all types of other things. The boys were going to tell you you're wrong. Sometimes those boys have a beard and they call themselves a rabbi. They also need Mussar, but instead they're going with the rest of the boys with the Yetzer Hara. Sometimes it's the girls, it's your cousin, it's some girl that lives in your neighborhood, it's somebody that you know. That's also Yetzer Hara. Somebody told me one time his Yetzer Hara is his sister, Hashem Yishmor. He says, I know it's forbidden, Rabbi, but I can't help it. It's in my mind. These types of things, Rabotai, may you never hear these stories that I end up dealing with on a day-to-day basis. The Yetzer Hara comes to everybody. And of course, if a person wants to grow in Torah, he needs to understand that there are foundations. There are foundations, there are pillars that keep us up, keep us together. And if we make sure that these pillars are strong, we have a strong foundation, we'll be able to overcome everything. Regardless of whether it's your personal issues, family issues, or it's the worldwide issues. People that are holding strong to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and understand what keeps this world alive are not afraid of the wars or of the anything else that's happening in the world. They're only afraid of whether they're serving Hashem enough. In the last couple of days, there's been a few clips from the lecture, Baruch Hashem, that we did in the event last week that have been causing a lot of turmoil for some people. Not because there was anything that was wrong that was said, but rather the opposite. People got a shock of their life when they heard the truth about their own community and didn't like to hear it. Whether they heard the truth about the criminal activities inside Jewish communities, lending money with 80, 90, 100% interest rates and calling it normal. Whether it's the Mashiach Now movement that's become literally Avodah Zarah of the generation for a certain sect of Judaism today. And some people are saying, Chazaku Baruch, I appreciate it. You know what? Now I have the right perspective. But unfortunately, many others, instead of reflecting, instead of looking at things the right perspective, what do? They make more sins. They send curses. They send abuses. They insult. They all types of things. The truth is, Rabotai, everything has sources in the Torah. Everything has proofs. And if a person is glued to the Torah, there's nothing they're going to be scared of. Not people, not wars, not monetary issues, nothing. The only thing a person is going to be concerned with is the job that they have at hand. It's the job that they have at hand. What can I do right now to utilize the time that I have the best way that I can? The Gaon of Vilna begins this letter in a different way. In a different way than we've seen so far. In a way that is not very common among Chachamim, not very common among Tzadikim when they write their Psak Halacha, but is common when they're talking about their mothers. Where the Gaon of Vilna starts the letter by saying, Ahuvati imi, my beloved mother. This is an extraordinary show of affection that you don't see the Gaon of Vilna using for his wife. Of course, even though this is a family letter, and there wouldn't necessarily be any type of halachic issue for him to say the same thing about his wife, of course the Gaon of Vilna, Kodesh Kodashim, he does not use the same terminology for his wife. Why? Because his Yirat Shamayim is something we could only wish for, and he knows what the halacha says, that you're not allowed to show affection to your wife in public, even if it's in a letter. Even if it's in a letter, you have to sometimes be careful. Now what about if it's a family letter? Of course, the Gaon of Vilna knew exactly what to do and what not to do. And while the people that do not understand and think, oh, wait, but isn't that not nice that he's showing affection to his mom, but he's not showing affection to his wife? Don't worry, his wife was not concerned. His wife was not concerned. Why? Because she too was a tzadikah, and she too knew exactly when is the appropriate time for affection. What about his mother? The Gaon of Vilna is fulfilling a mitzvah of kibud avaim, honoring his mother, by showing her the affection that he has. Specifically, fulfilling a couple of mitzvot. One is refraining himself from showing affection to his spouse that could lead to wrong ideas by others, even if those others happen to be family members. And even more so, making sure that he does give special honor, special love for his mother. Because a person that understands what it takes for a mother to raise a home, what kind of mesirut nefesh, what kind of sacrifice it takes for a mother to raise a home, understands that literally there is no amount of thank yous that you can say that would actually be a fair payment back. Now, here the Gaon of Vilna is doing something that Chachamim discussed in Sfarim. Rabbi Moshe Cordovero writes in the name of the Arizal, in the Sidur Tfilat LeMoshe, and he quotes the Arizal in Shara Kavanot, Inyane Leil Shabbat, saying that when one returns from synagogue on the evening of Shabbat, he should kiss his mother's hands upon arriving at home. Each Leil Shabbat, for the sake of honoring his mother. Now, of course, in today's world, it's not necessarily always common. Many times, you see people looking at how the people that understand what a rabbi is kiss the rabbi's hand, and they say, why are you kissing his hand? He's just a rabbi. This is obviously very common among the Sfaradim, not so common to our brothers the Ashkenazim, but nonetheless, Baruch Hashem, there are some Ashkenazim that also take it on themselves, where when they see a Talmid Chacham, they kiss their hand, not because of the physical nature, not because of anything Chas v'Shalom immoral, but rather as a show of respect. And Chachamim teach that this is actually one of the ways that a child can show honor to their parents by kissing their hand. And even more so, I learned from my own Rav, Rav Ephraim Shichye, this is one of the greatest things that a person can do to teach their children chinuch, to teach them how to honor their parents even as little kids. Because when you have 2, 3, 4-year-old kid, you can't start giving them a Mussar lecture of, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do that. You have to show them what to do. And when a child gets a blessing from the father each Friday night, or whenever the other opportunities present themselves, it's important to have the child kiss the father's hand. Same thing goes with the mother. If the mother gives the blessings to the children, it's very important for the kids to kiss the mother's hand. Why? It's a sign of respect, but also shows that there's a difference between the two. I'm the parent, you're the child. And this, Baruch Hashem, is one of the things that you see the kids themselves appreciate more and more as they make it part of their life. They look for opportunities. They look for opportunities to kiss their parents' hands, to show respect to their parents. It's an extraordinary thing that perhaps when you first start is a little strange, because your average person does not view themselves as some admor or some gadol, as one of the tzaddikim that gets their hands kissed by the public. But you don't need to be one of these people to get your hands kissed by your own children or even by your own wife. Why? Because this is, again, a sign of respect. And a child that is learning Torah, that goes to yeshiva, should look forward for these opportunities of kissing their parents' hands. Why? Because this is to show you, Abba, that the Torah that you're paying for me to learn, it's helping me give you more respect. A young man asked me a question that I've been asked many, many times. Do I still have to honor my father even though he does not follow the Torah, and in fact, he hates it? Now, according to halakha, if your father does not, your parents in general, do not honor the Torah, you have no obligation to give them respect. As it says in this week's parasha, in the beginning of Parashat Kedushim, Kadosh Baruch Hu says איש אמו ואביו תיראו, ואת שבתותיי תשמעו, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Every man, your mother and your father shall you revere, and my Shabbats shall you observe. I am Hashem your God. So here we see HaKadosh Baruch Hu connects three different mitzvot that are in the Ten Commandments. First tells us to honor our mother and our father. Then he tells us about observing Shabbat. Then he reminds us that he is God. So Chachamim say, what's the connection between these? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, your parents and honoring them is a very, very important mitzvah. So important that Rabbi Yaron writes in IGGERET Teshuvah that the entire world was created for Hashem's honor, and a person who wishes to honor Hashem should honor his father and mother. It's a very, very important mitzvah to honor your parents. But at the same token, you have other mitzvot in the Torah, such as observing Shabbat, and of course learning Torah, and keeping kashrut, and keeping tarat mishpacha, and so on and so forth. There's many other mitzvot. So you know you have to honor your parents, but there's also Shabbat and other mitzvot. And if your parents tell you to honor them by dishonoring the mitzvot, by not observing Shabbat, by not eating kosher, by joining them at some non-kosher restaurant, or joining them at some non-kosher event like a mixed dancing wedding, all types of beaches, Hashem Yishmol, all types of things, always remember, I am God, meaning I come before your parents, and therefore you have to observe my mitzvot before you honor your parents. So long as your parents are supportive of the Torah, or at least they're not against it, honor them. The second they tell you to go against the Torah, you have no permission whatsoever to honor them. You have to honor the Torah first because God comes before your parents. Now what about in a situation where your father, your mother doesn't like the Torah, doesn't appreciate the Torah, in fact, sometimes even makes fun of it. But they tell you, get me a coffee. They tell you, go to the store and buy me something. What do? According to the Torah, you don't have to honor them. But Rav Ovadia comes and he says, you should honor them so long as they don't tell you to go against the Torah. Meaning, if he tells you, violate Shabbat, go to a mixed dancing party, which is Gilui Arayot, it's one of the three cardinal sins. It's better for a person, for a Jew to die, Chas v'Shalom, than to go to one of these mixed dancing events, which unfortunately are now becoming a standard by the Care Bear rabbis holding events. They call shidduch events, all types of Gehenom events. They send a bunch of boys and a bunch of girls, they put them in a room, sometimes even include some alcohol because there's not enough satan already, and they say, oh, find yourself a shidduch. Hashem Yishmor v'yatzila on some such events. There's no permission whatsoever to have such an event. There's no permission whatsoever to attend such an event. But nonetheless, you have these things happening in different communities, and they think that they're doing a good thing. They're helping the Jews marry each other. All you're doing is helping people make more sins. And the Gehenom that the people that are behind these events are going to get is not going to have an end. It's not going to have an end. The abortions that come out of these events are going to be a punishment that all of the people that are hosting it are going to get punished for. All the people that are funding it. You donated $500, you donated $5,000 to sponsor that event, you'll have a special chamber in Gehenom. Why? Because that girl that just had an abortion because of you, or that girl that was intimate with somebody without being married to him because of you, that guy that wasted seed because of this event. All of that goes on them as well as on the people that are sponsoring it, the people that are hosting it. So if your father or your mother tells you to go attend one of these events, you have no permission to listen to them. But if they tell you to go get them a coffee, they tell you to go do something that has nothing to do with violating the Torah, Rav Ovadia says go do it. And that's what I told this young man. I told him, even though your father is against the Torah, and sometimes really nasty person. You should still show him honor so long as he's not telling you to go against the Torah. Why? Because if he sees you learning Torah right now, and you simply disregard him, then he's going to hate the Torah even more. Because you're going to say, look, this kid's just wasting his time reading these books, watching these videos. He's not becoming a better person. All he's doing is becoming a loser that's not going to make millions of dollars like I want him to, like I planned for him to. On the other hand, if he sees that suddenly you're looking for a way to give him respect, he comes into the room, you stand up. You don't have to, but you do. He asks you for something, you say, yeah, sure, Abba, can't wait. You want 2 sugars or 1? All of a sudden, you give him 2 cups. Why? Just to make sure you got it right. If you didn't like the first one, maybe the second one's better. Oh, by the way, I cleaned your office for you. By the way, I did this, I did this. You're looking for ways to give him honor. Why? Because now you're going to say, oh, wow. Why'd you do that? Because the Torah tells me to honor my parents. He's not going to think himself, oh, wait, but I'm not keeping Torah, so maybe you shouldn't honor him. He's going to think, wait a minute. That Torah that I thought that you're wasting your time with, it's telling you to honor me. 20 years you're in my house, you didn't honor me. But now you're reading these books, now you're listening to this rabbi, and all of a sudden you give me honor? I like this Torah stuff. Go ahead, go study, son. Go study. All of a sudden you're going to see it. Anytime you see that the family around you is against the Torah that you're learning, if it's in the beginning stages, that's because they don't know what they're dealing with. But if you're already learning Torah for 6 months, a year, needless to say longer, and your wife is still against it, your husband is still against it, your kids are still against it, your parents are still against it, it's not the Torah's fault anymore. It's your fault. Why? You're not showing them how that Torah is making you into a better person. The Torah is supposed to make you into a better person. And you have to learn how to use the Torah in order to stick to the truth, but at the same token, help people see the beauty in it. So of course, when a person wants to learn Torah, he has to make sure that he learns the things that apply to his day-to-day life more than anything else. This is also another reason why I tell people not to waste so much of their time discussing things that are going to happen in the future as far as Mashiach or all of the things that have to do with prophecy, simply because there's so much to learn on a day-to-day basis. Most people don't even know the halachot of the Omel. Most people don't know halachot of Yom Tov. You ask a person, what happens if you have a chicken? A chicken lays an egg on Yom Tov. You're allowed to eat it or you're not allowed to eat it? He says, I don't have a chicken. It doesn't make a difference if you have a chicken or not. You're allowed to eat it or not allowed to eat it. The average person will say, well, why are you talking that way? They don't even know where you're coming from. The reality is there's so many things to learn on a day-to-day life, and how that little thing of the egg has to do with your entire observance of Yom Tov. And whether you are allowed, whether you are not allowed, who, what, when, and how. If a person doesn't know these basic things, but yet they're an expert in Mashiach, they're an expert in growing a beard, they're an expert in having 15 different suits and looking religious. Of course, the world around you is not going to appreciate it. Of course, they're still going to despise the fact that you're religious. You're not changing. So, the Gaon of Vilna teaches us something very critical here, that honoring our parents is not something that gets old, it's not something that ages in any way, it's not something that you stop doing just because you become a big tzaddik, it's not something that you stop just because you get older, it's not something that you stop just because you're more religious than your parents. You have to find ways to utilize different parts of the Torah to show how beautiful the Torah is to the world around you. And Gemara Masechet Kiddushin says that when a person honors his parents, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes an announcement in Shamayim. He sees that person honoring his parents. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, how beautiful it is to be among them. To be among them, to be among my children. Why? Because when you honor your parents, the Shekhinah comes down. Hashem says, oh, how beautiful it is that I'm among my kids. I'm honored. On the other hand, when a person doesn't honor his parents, she doesn't honor her parents. She treats her mom like she's her girlfriend. She treats her father like he's a neighbor. Or the clerk behind the coffee stand. Dad, where's your car? What do you mean, Dad, where's your car? That's how you talk? Most women are looking at it like, what's wrong with what I just said? A lot. But it takes time. It takes time to learn in order to soften our character. And know that there are certain ways to talk and there are certain ways not to talk. Because when a Kadosh Baruch Hu sees that we don't honor our parents, he says, oh, it's great that I don't dwell among them. Because if I did, they would dishonor me too. So on one hand, he says, great that I'm dwelling among them, because I see them honoring the parents and they're honoring me. But when they don't honor, the Shekhinah runs away. And Hashem says, oh, thankfully I'm not among them, because if I was there, they would dishonor me also. The Chachamim have endless amount of stories about different ways that they honored their parents, but literally in a natural way. No one had to tell them. Rav Yosef Zundel of Salant was once seen by people of his communities, one of the Gedolei Hador. But they saw him at night, a lot of snow, and they saw him shoveling. Gedolei Hador is shoveling, but he's not even shoveling for his house. He's shoveling in the street somewhere. For the Rav. What is it? Why are you doing this? So the Rav says to them, oh, my dear mother, she crosses this path every day on her way to shul. So I wanted to make sure that it's going to be clear for her, because the snow ruined her path. In those days, there's no telephone. Oh, honey, can you go do this? Simple. He sees the snow. He thinks of his mother walking. It could be something in her way. There's going to be any type of discomfort. I could do something about it. No one needs to ask you. Why? Because when you learn Torah, you start thinking about everything but yourself. Meaning, all of the things that you're thinking about surely have to do with you, but you're looking to better the world. The Chazon Ish was once asked by one of the Bachurim in the yeshiva, what does it take to be a Gaon like the Chazon Ish? What does it take? And you would think Chazon Ish would say, Atmada, dedication, learn 15, 16 hours a day, make sure you don't skip the Mishnah in Masechet Avot that talks about the 48 different things that you need to acquire in order to acquire Torah, less sleep, less food, less intimacy, all the different things that a person needs to acquire in order to acquire Torah. You would think you would say that. Comes the Chazon Ish and says, by fulfilling the mitzvah of Kibud Avaim, you're going to acquire Torah. You're going to acquire Torah. Even Yaakov Avinu, Kodesh Kodashim, studied without sleeping in the yeshiva of Shem and Hevel for 14 years. Was concerned when he was going back to see his father Yitzchak. Why? He knew that Esav is there. Yeah, but you're a tzaddik. He's a rasha. What are you worried about? Esav had more time with Abba. Esav had more time with Abba to honor Abba. And Esav was an expert liar that made it look like he's honoring his father. In reality, it was all a deception. How do we know it's a deception? Because when Yitzchak Avinu told him to go get him some animals, go get him to eat, what did Esav do? He slaughtered his 2 dogs, gave him dogs. Yitzchak was Kodesh Kodeshim, doesn't eat dogs. So really, it was all a show. He was honoring himself. Even more so, after Yaakov got the blessing, Esav said, when will my father die that I can kill my brother? Wait, what kind of honor is this that you want your father to die? But nonetheless, Yaakov says he honored my father, so maybe that merit alone is going to give him merit to kill me. We see here how valuable the mitzvah of honoring the parents is. Now, many of the Chachamim discuss this, and of course, there's an endless amount of Torah about honoring your parents. Be'ezrat Hashem, there's going to be a sefer, an installment to the Yakut Yosef by the Rishon LeZion in English about honoring parents. They'll be coming out in the coming months. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll publicize when it's out. And there's a lot of halachot when it comes to honoring parents. And here the Gaon of Vilna honors his mother by simply making her happy. Is a special mitzvah, special importance to make your mother happy. If you can. After that, the Gaon of Vilna says to his mother, my beloved mother, I know that you don't need my Mussar, because I know that you're exceedingly modest. Here we learn an extraordinary teachings from the Gaon of Vilna. A teachings that, of course, b'siyata d'shmaya, always have to do with the weekly parasha. As HaKadosh Baruch Hu designs the world and recreates it each day, always custom makes the Shiur to always match the weekly parasha. And here we see that the Gaon of Vilna says something that is a shock to many people in this generation. Because when you think about righteousness, you ask people, what makes your Rebbitzin a tzadika? Oh, she knows a lot of stuff, she's really nice, she does a lot of chesed, she invites people, she goes visits people. The Gaon of Vilna here says, Ima, I know you don't need my Mussar. All those teachings, you don't need it. Why? You're already a tzaddiket. How does he know she's a tzaddiket? How do we know from this letter? You're already modest. You're already modest. If you're modest, you're achieving your mission. You're achieving your mission. Now, this is not an idea that was created by the Gaon of Vilna. This is coming from the Torah. As the Midrash Rabbah in Parashat Bereshit talks about when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Chava, he determined to use the rib as the starting point of creating Chava and not the hand, lest that hand touch things that it's not allowed to touch. He decided to use the rib and not the leg, lest she walk to different places that she's not allowed to walk to. He decided to use the rib and not the mouth, lest she talk a little more than she's supposed to or inappropriately. He decided to use the rib and not the eyes, lest she look at things she's not supposed to look at. Many people don't realize that protecting your eyes is not just a mitzvah for men. It's a mitzvah for women. Sadly, many women reach out to us with the same exact immorality addiction like men have. While many are shiurim, talk about Tikkun HaBRIT, generally speaking, talk about the issues of wasting seed for the man. There's no seed to be wasted for women per se, even though there is a machloket among that issue, both in the scientific world and otherwise, but nonetheless, the issues of morality pertain to men and women equally. The tikkun for men and women is equal. If a man wasted seed, he has to not only do tshuva, not only commit to stop sinning, not only say I'm sorry, and if he wants to really clean it up, he has to do a tikkun. For each time he wasted seed, he has to fast 84 times. Surely he's not going to be able to do that, so he has to use that, take the equivalent of a day's food, the value of how much he eats per day. Let's say if it's $5 per day, so times 84, 420, and donate it to publicize Torah that has to do with immorality, Tikkun HaBRIT. If he just donates it to a homeless shelter or a kollel that teaches, let's say, the halachot of business, it's not going to help him. It's not going to be a tikkun for him. Why? It has to be pertaining specifically to this issue. Many people have done this on our website, tikkunhabrit.live. Many have done it in other places in Israel, but nonetheless, people that want to clean up their past have to make sure that they have a regular contribution for Tikkun HaBRIT. If they want to clean up, they don't want to, they don't want to. There's no obligation. Everybody is going to arrive at Shamayim with whatever they prepare for themselves in this world. But for whatever reason or another, many women don't realize that they too have to do this. If she was immoral one time with some guy, if she was even immoral with herself, if she was immoral with Shemishmo, with another woman, these are all things that she has to fix in the same exact fashion. Stop, commit to never doing it again, say I'm sorry with tears, and if she wants to really clean it up, she has to make sure she has to do a tikkun. And many women, unfortunately, never realized that they have to protect their eyes, and they look at guys freely. They look at guys freely, they look at girls freely, and unfortunately they come to us with addictions. Addictions to certain movies, programs, all types of filth. And it's not an easy tshuva, but nonetheless it's an obligation, and nonetheless it is possible. A person needs to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the woman specifically from the rib because that is the part of the body that's always covered. It's always modest. Because the Midrash Rabbah says in the Gemara in many places that modesty for a woman is everything. Modesty for a woman is everything, Abotai. The Midrash says that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked at each part of the body that he was creating of Chava, he said to it, be modest, be modest. Then he would move from the arm to the leg, be modest, cover yourself, be modest. Then he went to different part of the body, be modest. What do you think he said when he got to the mouth? Be modest. What do you think he said when he got to the eyes? Be modest. What do you think he said when he got to the head? Be modest. But how can you be modest with the mouth, with the eyes, with the head? Simple. Women think, if they're unlearned in the halachot of modesty, that just because she's a woman, she's allowed to look wherever she wants. Wrong. Not allowed to look wherever you want. You have to protect your eyes, not much less than a man does. Surely the desire and the way the neshama of a woman is tuned is typically not like a guy, but nonetheless you have to protect your eyes. There's no permission to look at certain things. Needless to say, these movies, these shows, the filth in the streets. But even more so, the speech. There are times women talk to strange men, and by strange men, I don't mean they're complete strangers all the time, but strange men meaning simply anybody that's not our husband or our kids. With compliments. Oh wow, you look good. Steve, you look good. Steve, your husband? No, he's my coworker. Wait, you just told your coworker he looks good? Yeah, why? He looks good. What's the big deal? Why can't I say he looks good? Because it's not modest. That's why. Because now Steve thinks that maybe you got the hots for him. Nah, Steve's married. He's got 5 kids. So? And anyway, what makes you think it's okay for you to look at him in order to identify that he looks good or not? I used to have somebody write me a comment. Baruch Hashem, they stopped watching my shiurim. Or at least they stopped commenting. I'm not really sure. Somebody used to comment on my shiurim years ago. For whatever reason or another. Rabbi, you look good. I would delete it every time. Not for my sake. For their sake. Oh, Rabbi, I like your haircut. You look good. Married woman with kids. I'm not really understanding why you think that's a good thing to say to a rabbi or to anybody. That's not your husband. But women do this on a regular time. It's just a figure of speech. What's the big deal? I'm not looking at him that way. Just what? It's just a compliment. No, it's not. It's not the way to do it. Your mouth has to be modest. You can't just tell people they look good. Needless to say, you can't just talk to anybody. Some people just like to talk. They asked the guy in the supermarket, where's the chicken? Oh, it's aisle 17. Oh, okay, great. You work here for a while? What do you care if he works here for a while? Are you applying for a job? Oh, it's nice. It's good to work here. Where do you live? You live here? Who's your wife? Where do your kids go to school? All of a sudden you see 2 strangers talking to each other in the supermarket. She wants to know where his kids go to school and who his wife is. And then people are surprised that the adultery rates are going up, skyrocketing. Where does it start? These types of conversations. At the office, at the supermarket, in the streets, the playground. Worst thing in the world. Worst thing in the world is when you have men and women talk in playgrounds. Why? Almost guaranteed to sin. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. You have to be modest with your speech. Doesn't mean just don't say things that are vulgar. You have to be modest with your speech. You have to know who to talk to and what to say. Limit the conversation to absolute necessity. There's no problem. You can talk to the opposite gender. But what's necessary? The wife of Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes, Bruria, Talmidah Chachama. One of the Chachamim saw her and asked her for directions. Where's Luz? She rebuked him. Why are you using so many words? Don't you know you're not supposed to say too much to a woman? She says to her, what should I have said? Point, lose. Could have used the, you a chacham, you can say lose. Just say one word, it's enough. And this is her rebuking one of the Gedolei Ador. Why? Nobody's above the issues of morality. When it comes to modesty, it's not just the way you dress. It's not just which mitpachat you use. It's also the way you communicate. Some women talk about their personal life and even what happens behind closed doors to complete strangers. Not really sure how this happened and where this Satan came in from. But literally I've had rabbinical conversations. Problem? The wives of a few people that are religious like to talk about who, what, when, and how behind closed doors. Who allowed such disgusting, filthy conversations? What do you care how, who, and what he is? Don't you think it's going to cause a Yetzirah? Possibly he's going to do this and she's going to do that. But people have no boundaries. Hence the reason, Rabotai Yekarim, why last week's parasha Parashat Achrei Mot, told us about the horrific punishments, the horrific crime of immorality, not just being with your wife when she's nidah or somebody else's wife, but also something that could lead literally to incest. And this week's Parashat Kedoshim continues building on it, talking about the punishment that happens to people that commit all types of immoralities. Immoralities that could be something like obvious, person with his sister or his mother or his daughter, any of those filthy, disgusting behaviors that unfortunately are happening in the world today. The Torah itself says so, that's what the nations did in the past and that's what they're doing. With the type of conversations that you hear people have in the streets with their own children about how he is with his girlfriend and how she is with her boyfriend, and they're talking about this with their parents. They literally, it will be a surprise if this stuff doesn't happen. But needless to say, the Torah also talks about how you allow your children to behave. אל תחלל את ביתך להזנותה ולא תזנה הארץ. Do not profane your daughter to cause her to stray, so the land should not stray. Onkelos says, don't profane your daughter and cause it to stray. This is a prohibition against allowing a person's daughter to be involved in non-marital intimacy. In so many words, you allow your daughter to hang out with boys, you're violating the Torah. Yeah, but she's a grown woman. It's your fault. You allow your daughter to have a boyfriend or a boy as a friend, platonic, which is what I like to call atomic relationship, you're violating the Torah as a parent. You are violating the Torah as a parent. She surely is violating the Torah as a parent. But Torah here says, you allowing your daughter, or needless to say, you allow your son to be promiscuous, you're violating the Torah. Don't be surprised if HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes you. Don't be surprised. Torah talks about this week's parasha about Lo ta'asu avil b'mishpat. Don't commit falsehood in judgment. This is referring to not the judgment of the Beit Din, but rather don't be involved in corrupt businesses. Don't be a liar. But then the Torah has an entire section that talks about the issues of immorality, people that act immoral, either with themselves or with others, so much so that even if somebody acts in an abominable way and wastes seed, this is a heavenly death penalty. Surely if there's incest, if there's adultery, and Torah says that if the people of the house of Israel will hide their eyes from that man, they'll also be put to death. What does it mean if they hide their eyes? They see that their children are sinning, boyfriends and girlfriends. They see that their community members also sinning. They say nothing. All of those people, all of those leaders, all of those people that are in a position to guide people with Mussar, to rebuke them appropriately, and don't do it, they'll also get punished. So much so that the Gemara says that they'll be punished the same way, if not worse. Same way, if not worse. Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hates immorality so much that he promises that there are certain sins that people will do that he'll punish them also in this world, where they won't have any children. Now when a person is 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 years old, typically, in today's world, they don't even want children. When do people start wanting children? When they get a little older. Kadosh Baruch Hu says there's certain sins that a person can make when it comes to immorality, that Kadosh Baruch Hu makes sure, promises them that they're going to be aririm. Aririm yamutu. They shall die without a child. Onkelos explains, yeah, but you have sometimes people, they committed some type of adultery, some type of incest, some type of immorality, and they still had children. But Torah says they'll be aririm. They're not going to have children. Don't worry. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make sure that they'll see their own children die during their life. Hashem Yishmor. Why? Because of a moral crime they made 20, 30 years before. Gemara says one of the worst pain that a person can endure in their lifetime is seeing their child die during their lifetime. Hashem Yishmor. Now, the Midrash make sure we understand how HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs this world. How HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs this world, because sometimes it looks like the evil win. The Midrash Rabbah in Parshat Achrei Mot brings a bunch of different things. In the Parshat Kaf Gimel, Parshat Kaf Gimel, in Siman Tet, Rabbi Chia says that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I am Hashem, he's warning the Jewish people. I am Hashem, the one who exacted retribution from the generation of the flood, from the people of Sodom, from the people of Egypt. And I will exact retribution from he who acts as they act. Anytime you see, I am Hashem in the Torah, that's what it means. That's what it means. It means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, I am God, I am the same God that destroyed the entire world, the time of Noach. I am the same God that destroyed the entire Sodom and Gomorrah. I am the God that destroyed Egypt. Why? They're all immoral. Midrash continues, says, the generation of the flood was blotted out of this world because it was steeped with immorality. Rabbi Simlai says, wherever one finds immorality, a calamity of mass destruction is visited upon the world that kills the good and the bad alike. Any place you see there's immorality, the more it becomes standard, the closer disaster is to that place. And it's only a matter of time. Hashem Yishmor v'yatzil. It's only a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of time. V'amevin yavin. Rav Huna says, in the name of Rabbi Yossi, the members of the generation of the flood were blotted out of the world because they wrote marriage documents for males marrying males and for people marrying animals. Homosexuality not only ran rampant like it is today, but also became kosher. They got marriage certificates like it became today, Shem Yishmo. And people marrying animals like is happening with millions of people in the world today. People literally go to hotels that are built for bestiality. HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroyed the world for this. Rabbi Azariah, in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Simon, It says that for all the sins, the Holy One, blessed is He, is slow to anger, except for that of immorality. Meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't punish for all the things, all the crimes we commit against Him quickly. He has a lot of patience. But a person commits immorality, typically there's something coming soon. Somebody once tested this. Not knowingly, unknowingly. And he told me. He says he was in the investments. He had investments. He says, Rabbi, you wouldn't believe it. I did the calculation. I think it was over a few weeks. I'm not really sure how much money this guy had. But he said, every time I wasted seed, the next day I lost 25,000 or more. Every day. Wasted seed at night with somebody by himself, not exactly sure. The next day, turn on the portfolio in the market, down 25,000 or more. You think that got him to do tshuva? A little bit. Also got him almost to lose everything he had. I don't know the exact dollar amount because he didn't tell me how many times he lost his 25,000 or more. But nonetheless, let's just say it's a lot of money. Many people have told me the same thing. Every time I waste seed, I end up losing money. That week, that day. Every time. And I always think, it's funny. The guy wasted seed with that girl, with himself. Lost 5, 10, 20, 30, 50,000, whatever he lost. But then you tell him, listen, you want to do a tikkun, it's $420. Oh, Rabbi, it's a lot. You know how many times I have to pay $400,000, $500,000, $500 million. Yeah, that's cheap in comparison to what you're going to lose if you don't stop. But nobody says you have to do everything at one time. Even if you do one tikkun a month. Whatever you can afford. There's some tzaddikim that do one tikkun a month. Baruch Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu continues to give these people more parnasah. Suddenly they're able to afford 2 tikkunim a month, 3 tikkunim a month. There's a lot of blessing in it. But nonetheless, a person that completely ignores it, ignores the mitzvot, ignores the Torah, continues to waste seed, continues to be immoral, she continues to walk around immodest, she continues to not have arms and legs, she continues talking to all the guys because she likes attention, because she wants to know where his wife works. Losses come from that. Immorality comes from that. And one of the most horrible things that come from it is adultery. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu hates adultery. How much does He hate adultery? How much does the HaKadosh Baruch Hu hate adultery? HaKadosh Baruch Hu hates adultery so much that He changes human nature for it. How so? The Midrash, Rabbah, Parashat Achrei Mot, Kaf Gimel, says the following. HaKadosh Baruch Hu talked to, this is in section 12, Siman 12. HaKadosh Baruch Hu talked to Job. Job the Navi. Says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded us not to perform the practice of the land of Egypt, right? It says this is to be understood in light of what's written, that the adulterer's eyes await Neshef, saying, no eye will see me. And he applies himself to sin and concealment. This is in Job chapter 24, verse 15. Resh Lakish says, this verse teaches that you should not say that only whoever commits adultery with his body, which is actual adultery, is called an adulterer. But rather, one who commits adultery with his eyes by gazing at women that's forbidden to him is also called an adulterer. And even more so, someone that does it with their nose, they smell. He's called an adulterer's eye, and so on. But also the Chachamim say, it says the adulterer sits and waits, saying, when will Neshef come? Meaning, when will the evening come? So he could sin, but sin without anyone seeing him, meaning that the adulterer becomes a apikos, a heretic, thinking that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not seeing him. So how is HaKadosh Baruch Hu punish the adulterer that thinks that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not seeing him, or doesn't even pay attention to what HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees? He only cares about the husband showing up, or she cares about the wife showing up. How does HaKadosh Baruch Hu make sure that everybody knows that they're adulterers? Says the Midrash, the adulterer doesn't know that he who sits in the concealment of the world, this is referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He forms all of the fetus's knots, meaning the facial features, in the adulterer's form in order to expose the adulterer. This is the intent of what Job says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Does it befit you to commit injustice, that you despise the labor of your hands and appear upon the schemes of the wicked? Job was referring to the above scenario, that he bemoans the fact that the woman's husband nourishes and sustains his wife during her pregnancy, and yet God forms the fetus's knots in the form of another. And not only that, complained Job, but you despise the labor of your hands after you toil in the form of the fetus an entire period of 40 days, and you go back and ruin it. So what is this talking about? Something out of this world, Rabotai. Chidush of all chidushim. Now everybody understands, we don't need the Midrash's help to tell us that if a woman commits adultery, and really it's not her husband that she's pregnant with his seed, but rather the other guy. Surely that kid is a mamzer, but surely it's likely that the boy will look like the other guy. He's not going to look like her husband, right? That's not what the Midrash is saying. Job is saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why do you ruin your work? What ruining his work? What ruining his work? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, this adulterer said, when is the night coming so no one sees me? I want to make sure that he knows that I saw him. Which means, even after she is pregnant with her husband's seed, but then while she's pregnant with her husband's seed, she cheats on him with somebody else. Whether it's the whole thing or part of the thing doesn't make a difference. She cheats on her husband with somebody else. I'm going to make sure to change that baby's face to, instead of looking like his father, to look like her boyfriend. Just to expose the adulterer. All of a sudden, the new baby is born. Wow, he really looks like your cousin. Wow, he really looks like the mailman. Wow, he's kind of, doesn't look like anybody. Well, he does. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching. A woman that was immoral comes to Rabbi Yaron in the year 1926, 5686, in the city of Kirkuk, in the month of Adar, and asked Rabbi Yaron to please rescue her, because a demon kept attacking her and copulating with her. She told Rabbi Yaron when the demon came, his mother would come too, because his mother never left him. And they both are visible to her as regular human beings, even in broad daylight. Even if she was busy, he would force her to get up and copulate with him. I asked her a number of questions regarding the qualities of which identify demons, including questions about hair, and I switched things around, telling her that the demons have no hair, whereas the females do have hair. just to see if she knows if it's real or if she made it up. And she corrected me. She says, no, Rabbi, the males have hair, but the women don't have hair. Just like it says in Sefer Hasidim, meaning that this is a legitimate story, not some woman that went crazy. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu allow the demons to attack this woman and in essence rape her on a regular basis? Because she allowed other people that weren't her husband to do the same. Modesty, Rabotai, is more than just a big deal. In this Kuntres that was published some years ago by Sha'ar HaEmet, called Dressed in Accordance with Halakha. So at Hashem, we're going to try to see if we can get some more copies of this. They have different letters from Gdolei Israel discussing modesty. And I'm quoting some things from these Kuntres. It says in a Sefer Taharat Yom Tov, chapter 8, Siman 9, the Khatam Sofer is quoted saying, in regards to the last exile being more severe than the early exiles, and not a single day passes without a new curse that surpasses the last one, it's all due to the fact that in all the other exiles there was no immodesty among women, while now that's not the case. Now, because of our many sins, immodesty has become common among women. And this is far worse than all of the other sins in the Torah. The Chafetz Chaim wrote in one of his letters in the year 5684, approximately 100 years ago, the reason for this matter, that there are troubles and destruction and punishment, and that there is a decline in the generation, is that we have distanced ourselves from the Holy One, blessed is He. We distance ourselves from Him because of this awful thing called fashion. And this is 100 years ago, Rabotai. Needless to say about Hashem Yishmor about today. This awful thing called fashion. We have, with our own hands, canceled God's own words that say, "In your camp shall be holy, and God will not see a shameful thing among you." From the power of impurity greatly overwhelms with immodesty. From this results all evil and trouble, and so it is written in our holy books. Rabbi Yehuda Ades quotes what he himself witnessed. Rav Elazar Menachem Shach, one of the Gdolei Ador in the previous generation, what he said in the huge gathering, Gdolei Ador, discussing the issues of strengthening modesty. And he quotes Rav Shach saying, if the wives of our Torah scholars in the Kollel wear such clothing, he's referring to the new fashion statement of the short and narrow skirts that women wear today, Hashem Yishmor, something that today has become standard in many communities. He says, if the wives of our Torah scholars, the Avrichim in the Kollel, wear such clothing, we need to close all of our Kollels. For if the wives wear indecent clothing, what worth is their husband's Torah? Does not all the Torah learning go to the Sitra Achra, the forces of impurity? Evil and hard decrees will descend upon the world. As a result of this, as our sages brought by Rashi in Parashat Noach, wherever immodesty and promiscuity are to be found, chaos and pandemonium will come to the entire world, killing both evil and good people, heaven forbid. Awful and terrible, God protect us. End quote. There are many psukim in the Torah that talk about modesty and morality. One of the most famous, that God will not see a shameful thing among you and turn away from behind you. Meaning, a woman is immodest, HaKadosh Baruch Hu simply runs away from her. The Gedolei Hador put together a letter warning Am Yisrael about the issues of morality, warning Am Yisrael about the issues of modesty, and ending the letter with all women who observe these laws with the proper care and consideration will be blessed with a strong and healthy children, life, food, and abundance of blessings, and shall merit other blessings and benefit. God will protect their homes from evil, and they'll be successful in body and soul in this world and the world to come. Because in the merit of these righteous women will bring the future redemption. Meaning that there's a lot on the line. And surely all of the opposite, all of the disasters that we just said, also on the line. On one end, all the blessings. On the other end, all of the curses. Who signed this letter? Rav Shmuel Alevi Vosner, Rav Nissim Karelitz, the Wishnitzer Rebbe, the Belzer Rebbe, Rav Michael Yuda Lefkowitz, Rav Vadi Yosef, Rav Shmuel Auerbach, Rav Alexander Rebbe, the Sadiger Rebbe, Rabbi Pinchas Scheinberg, all of the Gedolei Hador, Rav Aaron, Rav Steinemann, Rav Aaron Yuda Leib Steinemann, all of the Gedolei Hador signed this letter. In essence, telling us, on one end, all the blessings in the world, protection for your kids, protection for your husband, protection, parnasah, good health, everything. On the other end, all of the curse, all of the tragedies in the world. There's no middle ground. Rav Auerbach wrote on the 19th of Iyar in 57-59, a little over 30 years ago. Almost 30 years ago. That immodesty has become publicly acceptable. Hashem have mercy. Our sages have already said, far worse is the one who causes his fellow to sin than worry to have killed him, heaven forbid. Anyone who gives thought to these matters, the issues, the laws of modesty, sees that the culture of the Goyim has influenced Am Yisrael to the point where it's confused people about what modesty is. Even people that were naturally righteous women are confused about what modesty is. You see women that are saying, what's wrong? I'm trying to do my best. I'm covering my hair even with mitpachat. But yet she walks around with a skirt that is not fit to be a skirt. It's not fit to be something even to sleep in. She doesn't think it's a problem. There are entire keilot in Europe where the frum community goes to a mixed beach. Men and women go to a beach. Think there's no problem in it. In America, entire Keilah goes to the beach together every summer. Rabbis not only don't speak against it, sometimes they join them. Hashem Yishmor V'Yatzil. There's so much confusion among the religious community. It's amazing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has that much mercy, but he does. But he does, and he has patience, but not forever. Hence the reason why we're seeing a lot more disaster happening in the world than recent history. And anyone that actually looks at the real laws of modesty, you look at what the Chachamim discussed in the Talmud, you look at the actual sources of modesty, you'll see that there's no stringencies, there's no extremes. But rather, modesty in Am Yisrael is the foundation of a Jewish home. The Gemara in Masechet Ketubot, page 72, says that the woman's essence and existence rests upon the observance of the laws of modesty, whereby without modesty she's not worthy of being a wife. Midrash Tanchuma, Parashat Vayishlach, says that a woman that's modest is using her modesty to atone for her entire household and family, for their sins. Just like they did at the Mishkan, the altar, and the Kohen Gadol atoned for the sins of the entire house of Israel. A woman that's modest will be saved from all sorts of troubles, illnesses, and war, and will be filled with much goodness and all the blessings in the world. So there's literally such a extreme variance between the two. On one end, you see literally all of the troubles and the disasters in the world begin with immorality, begin with immodesty, and then immorality. All of the curses, all of the horror, Hashem changes nature to show this stuff. I once had a woman, called herself religious, said that her husband is mad at her because he found out she cheated on him while she was pregnant. She still considered herself religious, and she thought that her husband is overreacting. People are completely delusional. But nonetheless, Rabotai, the Torah is what brings us back home. The Torah is extreme in many cases to tell us, on one end, all of the blessings in the world. All of the blessings in the world. On the other, all the curses. There is no middle ground. There is no middle ground. Hence the reason why the Gaon of Vilna says to his mother, I know you don't need my Mussar because you're exceedingly modest. Once you're modest, that's it. This is the reason, Rabotai, when a woman truly understands what the Gaon of Vilna is saying here, when a woman truly understands what the Midrash just said to us, when the woman understands what Gdolei Yisrael, Rav Ovadia, Rav Vosner, Rav Auerbach, Rav Shach, the giants among giants have said about modesty, what the Midrash says, what the Gemara says, all the sorts across the board say, not only will she have an easy time justifying changing our entire wardrobe without letting anybody steer her in a different direction. Not only that, but when it comes to doing tshuva for all modesty, all she's going to need is proof to me that this is what Da'at Torah is. This is what Hashem says, I'm doing it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent us more Chachamim than all of the other nations in history put together. Our Chachamim did not waste time socializing. Our Chachamim, Baruch Hashem, were giants in all aspects. And these very same Chachamim were worried that Bnot Israel are going to be misled by fashion, worried that Bnot Israel are going to be fooled by the Yetzer Hara, and therefore they toiled endlessly to make sure that we know exactly what's right and wrong. Years ago, I showed you a list of over 100 poskim from the time of Yonatan ben Uziel to Rav Ovadia. Over 100 poskim that forbid the use of wigs, even when those wigs look like a broom. Even when those wigs look like something that looks worse than your mop that you use to clean your floor. Over 100 poskim forbid the wigs. Now if a woman says, yeah, but my custom, because I'm Ashkenazi, or I'm Hasid, or so on and so forth, is to wear wigs, perhaps you should rewind this shiur to the beginning and listen to the section about modesty again. Because when a person understands that on one end you have the most extreme of blessings and most extreme of curses, referring to the issues of modesty. And then you have Gedolei Israel forbidding wigs. The very same Gedolei Israel that you'll see quoted in all the books. Your local rabbi is not quoted in any of the books. And even the one or two big rabbis that you say allow it, did not allow today's wigs that look more beautiful than the natural hair of the most beautiful model and longer than the exile. And more tum'ah than the temple itself that they were created in. Nobody allowed those wigs. And needless to say, those one or two chachamim that you want to rely on that did not allow the wigs that your local rabbi is saying is okay, and that is because his wife is wearing it. Kvodam b'mkomam, their honor and their place, they're not bigger than over 100 poskim that said it's forbidden even before they became what they became. Even before the wigs transformed and mutated into the tum'ah of tum'ah, being immodest just by simply being on a shelf, they're already immodest. And more tum'ah than you could humanly imagine because they come from the temples of idolatry in India. A woman that wants the blessings without anyone getting in the way in any shape or form is simply going to take every wig she has and either burn it immediately if she can do it outside because it stinks terribly once you burn it, or simply put it in a garbage can, pour bleach, and say good riddance. And have kavanah in her mind, she's fulfilling the mitzvah of limchot et Amalek. Disregarding what our local community says, disregarding what the local rabbi says, because the rabbis that say it's not allowed are much bigger than any local rabbi today. Disregarding what tradition, because no tradition allowed anybody to benefit from idolatry, needless to say, benefit from immodesty. And even more so, disregarding anything that anybody says in the neighborhood of how they look and what they do. Why? She wants the blessings. And surely she does not want the curses. Surely she does not want the curses. Baruch Hashem, many women have listened to our shurim over the years and have taken on themselves to get rid of the wigs and put on a mitpachat. Or if they didn't wear a wig and didn't wear a mitpachat, they started putting on a mitpachat. And without a question, every single one of these women saw blessings come to their life. Some more, some less, but nonetheless, every one of them saw blessings in their life. More shlom bayit, more parnasah at times, medical miracles, pregnancy, all types of extraordinary things, without exception. Some it happened right away, some it took a little time. Unfortunately, some forgot. But nonetheless, blessings came. Why? When a woman is modest, HaKadosh Baruch Hu guarantees. Anyone that's clever, will be as modest as humanly possible. Both men and women alike. Why? Who doesn't want all the blessings? And who doesn't want to avoid all the curses? So the Gaon of Vilna says, Ima ki yadati ki tznuat. Says to his Ima, because I know that you are exceedingly modest. Nevertheless, this letter should be read to you, for its words are the words of the living God. For anybody out there that thinks, it's just a letter, the Gaon of Vilna, that the Chachamim compare him to the Rishonim, to the time of the Rambam. The Gaon of Vilna himself is calling this letter the words of the living God. Even the most righteous people need to study this letter. Even the most righteous people need to follow what it says. Why? This is real Torah. He says, I beg of you, with a pleading request, not to have sorrow about me, as you promised me, and if Hashem wills it, if I merit to stand in the holy city of Yerushalayim, at the very gate of heaven, I will pray for you as I promised. And if we merit it, we shall all be reunited, if it will be the will of the Master of Mercy. So here, Rabotai, we see that the language of the Chachamim is slightly different, to say it in a nice way. Slightly different than your average person. Why? Your average person will say, I want to do XYZ. If that person is religious, they'll say, Im Yirtzeh Hashem, if it's the will of Hashem. Or they'll say, Be'ezat Hashem, with God's help. But typically it's once during a conversation or during a statement. Here we see that the Gaon of Vilna breaks up this letter in such a fashion that each statement in its own right has a special request from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and a special teachings for us. Where after giving the respect to his mom, he also, another way to honor his mom, he pleads with her not to have sorrow that he's going away, not to cry over him, and as his end of the bargain, he's going to pray for her when he gets to Yerushalayim. As a side note, the Gaon of Vilna never made it to Eretz Yisrael. He tried to go up there twice and never succeeded. The Chafetz Chaim also tried to go to Eretz Yisrael, never succeeded. One Rosh Yeshiva had a Bachur come to him and his yeshiva say to him, Kvod Harav, I don't think that the Mishnah Berurah, the Chafetz Chaim, I don't think he's right about this one thing. The Rosh Yeshiva says to this Bachur, let me tell you a story. But Chafetz Chaim, Chafetz Chaim tried to make Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael. And one day, says to his yeshiva, making Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, goodbye. He used to plead with Hashem for every single step that he would take. He would go up the steps, say, Hashem, please have mercy on me and let my foot reach the step and land safely. Once he took the step, another step. Please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, help me with the next step. Then finally, thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you help me with all the steps. Literally every step of his day. Constantly talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He went in the carriage after saying goodbye. Shortly after, the wheel broke. The guy fixed it while the Chafetz Chaim is praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And they start again. A little while later, not so far from the city, breaks again. Spare. Shortly later, it breaks again. After the third break, Chafetz Chaim says to the guy, let's turn around. They're telling me from Shamayim that Kadosh Baruch Hu does not want me to make Aliyah. And he turned around and he stopped trying to go make Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael. So the Rosh Yeshiva asked the Bachur, how did the Chafetz Chaim know that in Shamayim they don't want him to make aliyah and it's not the Yetzer Hara just getting in the way? Bachur says, I don't know. Rosh Yeshiva says, I don't know either. But the Chafetz Chaim knew. The Chafetz Chaim knew. Not after the first time. Not after the second time. But after the third time, he knew it's from Shamayim not to make aliyah. So before you disagree with what the Chafetz Chaim says, just know who you're dealing with. Somebody knows what's going on in Shamayim. The Gaon of Vilna tried and he didn't succeed to go up to Eretz Yisrael, but he did succeed in giving us this letter. Despite not succeeding in the trip, he succeeded in teaching us an endless amount of Torah, Baruch Hashem. And here, the Gaon of Vilna teaches us another thing. Well, first and foremost, he talks differently. Unlike the average person that says Be'ezrat Hashem once, or Yirtzeh Hashem once, he uses it multiple times. And he says that if Hashem wills it, and I merit to stand in the holy city of Yerushalayim, showing us, Rabotai Yekarim, that regardless of what destination you want to go to, whether that destination is a higher income, or a new house, or a new city, or a new relationship, always remember, Im Yirtzeh Hashem, if it is the will of Hashem, it will be. And if it's not happening, simply means it's not the will of Hashem. There's no reason for you to cry. There's no reason for you to be depressed. There's no reason for you to complain. There's no reason for you to get angry. If it didn't happen, it simply means that at this point, it is not the will of Hashem. And I promise you, he's not wrong. Now, it may be the will of Hashem after you pray some more, so we're not discouraging you from praying. It may be the will of Hashem if you have more merits. But currently, if it didn't happen, if you didn't get to that new house, if you didn't get that new thing, if you didn't get that relationship, if you didn't get that new job, if you didn't get that increase in salary, if whatever you wanted to happen did not happen, if you did not arrive at a certain destination, it simply means it was not the will of Hashem. And without the will of Hashem, you cannot even breathe a single breath. The Gaon of Vilna tells us, first and foremost, you need to know before any journey that you take, whether it's a small journey of taking one step towards the bathroom or towards the door to go to work, whether it's opening your eyes to start the day or to learn Torah, always remember, Im Yirtzeh Hashem. If it's the will of Hashem, you're going to get your destination. Second, I will pray for you as I promised, and if we merit it, we shall be reunited. The second thing that the Gaon of Vilna teaches us is that even he, the Gaon, the Tzaddik, and his mother, the Tzaddikah, Kdosha, need merits. Needless to say, we need merits. For what? For everything that we want. For everything that we need. You need more air in your lungs, you need merit. You need more money in your pocket, you need merit. You need a Bet Knesset that's a kosher Bet Knesset, you need merit. You want to get married, you need merits. How do I get merits? More mitzvot, more chesed, more tzedakah, more tshuva, more praying, more good. Do good because it's good to do good for you. When a person starts thinking, oh, I didn't get what I want because it's not the will of Hashem, but that's where it ends. No. It's not the will of Hashem because of something. Why is it not the will of Hashem for me to get this job? Why is it not the will of Hashem for me to get married? Why is it not the will of Hashem for the shidduch to want to marry me even though I want to marry him? Why is it not the will of Hashem for me to have kids? Why is it not the will of Hashem for me to heal? Why is it not the will of Hashem? It's not the will of Hashem because I don't have enough merits. That's why it's not the will of Hashem. I don't have enough merits. Gotta be real. But that's not something that should make you hopeless. That's something to make you hopeful. Why? Because merits is something you could always get. Go pray, you got more merits. Go learn more Torah, go more merits. Go do kiruv, endless merits. Go learn Torah, endless merits. Do tshuva, endless merits. Become modest, endless merits. There are certain things that you can do that earn you merits without even trying. A woman that's modest is a walking Kiddush Hashem. She's earning merits simply by wearing clothes. A man that's religious and learns Torah and looks like a Jew, has peyot, those peyot, that look of Judaism earns you merits like a mezakeh rabim, say the Chachamim. Like someone that is actually benefiting the public because he looks Jewish. He's earning merits for simply doing something that doesn't require any effort because the hair grows by itself. Doesn't require any effort other than simply using your eyes to look at Torah instead of a shtuyot. All you gotta do is learn Torah. All you gotta do is do mitzvot. All you gotta do is function in the world and sanctify everything that you do. You have to eat, right? Regardless of whether you're religious or you're not religious, you have to eat, right? So, before you eat, make sure it's kosher. And before you eat, make a blessing. Either way, you have to eat. Only difference is between you and the goy is that you're going to make a blessing, you're going to eat kosher food. Regardless, you have to eat. You got to go to the bathroom, right? Regardless, you got to go to the bathroom. Only difference is when you finish the bathroom, make sure, of course, wash your hands, but after that, say Asher Etzah, thank you, Kadosh Baruch Hu, for all of these tubes being open when they need to be open and closed when they need to be closed and your body functioning. Thank you, Kadosh Baruch Hu, for you being able to go to the bathroom. Imagine every single time a person went to the bathroom, he would scream his lungs out. Imagine, Rebbe Kadosh suffered that problem. Many tzaddikim suffered such a problem. Needless to say, if you don't suffer such a problem, and even if you do, you have to thank Kadosh Baruch Hu endlessly. All you have to do is, you took something that's disgusting and sanctified it. Like I heard Rav Chaim, Rav Eliyahu ben Chaim, Shichyeh, say, there is the parable of the filthy sheep, the filthy sheep. Somebody took a filthy sheep. Oh, it was, ooh, smelly, disgusting. Disgusting. What did he do? Took off all of the wool, slaughtered it in a kosher way, used it as a korban in the Bet HaMikdash. Used it as kosher food for Shabbat. What did he just do? He turned something filthy into something holy. That's our job in the world. That's our job in the world. So, all of the things that a person does in the world, all you got to do is sanctify it. You want to be intimate? Just make sure it's your wife and she's Torah. That's it. No one's telling you to be celibate like the Christian pretend to be. No one is telling you to be some quiet guy like some monk. Live your life, but sanctify it. Sanctify it. When you do, you earn merits. When you do, you earn merits. And when you earn merits that even the Gaon of Vilna says he needs in order to see his mother once again, in order to be reunited with his family once again, he needs merits even for that. He doesn't count on the merits that he has. He says, I need more merits to see you again. I need more merits to be reunited with the family again. Even the Gaon of Vilna understands that he needs more merits. Needless to say, we need more merits. In order for what we want to be the will of Hashem. And let's just say you did everything you could, and you did the mitzvot, and you did tshuva, and Hashem Yishmor, something bad happened. Because it happens in the world. Somebody died, because people don't live forever. Something happened, because nothing is perfect in this world. Always remember the step number 3 that the Gaon of Vilna reminds us. After he tells us if it's the will of Hashem, after he tells us that we need merit, he says, if it's the will of the Master of Mercy, meaning, don't think for a moment that you are more merciful than God. Don't think for a moment that your pain is greater than the pain that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has. Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you more than you love yourself. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants good for you more than you want for yourself. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that all of the pain and agony that you will sometimes deal with, whether it's Hashem Yishmor, death, sickness, poverty, loss of any kind whatsoever, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu does all of the accounting, the good that you did, the bad that you did, this carnation, the previous carnation, the outcome, the cause. He knows how much suffering you're dealing with. And he knows how much suffering you're going to deal with. And he still does it. Despite the fact that you said, if it's the will of Hashem, and I'm going to earn more merits, and you still got pain. What does that mean? That means that pain that you are dealing with is the best possible thing that you can get out of all of the options that are available to you at this moment. Yeah, but I said if it's the will of Hashem. Exactly, it is the will of Hashem. To cause you pain is the will of Hashem today in order to cause you pleasure in the future. Yeah, but I earned merit, so why should I get pain? Because the pain is necessary at times in order to have pleasure. Such as the pain of pregnancy. No woman in her right mind says, I want to have pain of labor. But she's willing to take it because she knows that once she deals with the agony of pregnancy, with the agony of the labor, she'll have pleasure from this baby for the rest of her life. Especially if she nurtures that baby with an endless amount of Torah throughout his or her life. Then she will really enjoy that baby and the babies that baby brings in the future. So it was worth it to have the pain of carrying this baby, of delivering this baby, agony that's unlike any other, that if a single man experienced it for a moment, they would die. That's why Kadosh Baruch Hu only allows a woman, and will only allow a woman to carry a baby, because no man in the world can deal with such pain. When a man has a kidney stone, he wants to kill himself. Needless to say, a baby, no man in the world can understand or fathom the pain that a woman has to deal with. To carrying the baby, to deliver the baby, to raise the baby. Wake up in the middle of the night every single day for the rest of our life practically. Wake up because you have to feed him. Wake up because you have to dress him. Wake up because you have to change him. Wake up because you have to walk around with him. Wake up because, for no reason whatsoever, because they're crying. Wake up because they got out of bed. Wake up because they haven't come home early enough. Wake up because they're this. Wake up because of that. For the rest of her life, she has to wake up because of this kid. And she's still doing it again and again and again. If it's a Jewish home that's full of Torah, Baruch Hashem, as often as possible every year, there's Mazal Tov. Why? Because the pain is worth it. Because the pain is worth it. Because the pleasure is endless. But people that don't understand why they're even in this world typically don't want kids. They want a pet. As soon as they have some type of pain after one kid, maybe two, they don't want kids anymore. They'd rather get a dog. Maximum lifetime, 12, 13, 14 years, 15 years. If he's a pit bull, maybe 19. And if they really like animals, they'll get a Tuki. Live for 25, 30 years. But they don't want a kid. Why? Oh, too painful. That's a person that lives for themselves, that will die by themselves. But a Jew that understands that they're here to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu and knows that everything in this world has to be the will of Hashem. And in order for the will of Hashem to be the same thing as what I want, and in order for the same thing that I want to be the same as He wants, I have to have merit. I have to have merit. And if what I want, after I tried my best, doesn't happen, that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving me the best option that I can possibly get at this moment in order to give me something even better down the road. In order to give me something better down the road, I need this pain for whatever reason. Only He knows. Only He knows. But once I know that, I no longer have any concerns of what will be. I no longer have any worries of what will be. I no longer have any concerns of all of the things that are happening. My only concern, what do I need to do now? How do I proceed forward? What tools do I have to deal with the circumstances? How do I get myself more merits? How do I get myself more merits? If I'm more modest, would that give me more merits? Yes. If I learn more Torah, is that going to give me more merits? Sure. Give more tzedakah, is that going to give me more merits? Sometimes. Why sometimes? If I give it for the sake of Torah, that's kosher Torah, more merits. Non-kosher Torah, less merits. Give it for things that are holy, more merits. Things that are go against Hashem, less. I do the will of Hashem, more. Against Hashem, less. Modest dress reaches all the way to the floor, more. Short dress barely covering the knees, less. Mitpachat tznuah, more. Wig longer than the exile, less. Watch my mouth, not say too much, more. Talk like a parrot, less. Learn Torah and use this mouth for only holy things, more. Talk about people and their personal lives, less. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to have more. And you want you to have more. The Gaon of Vilna says, it starts with modesty. If you're modest, clothing, behavior, speech, everything becomes easy. The merit account starts working on its own. It's on autopilot increase. The Torah flows from your mouth like a river. Your marriage works itself out. The kids give you chidushim before they go to sleep. Abba, did you know that a korban is not the same thing as what the goyim call a sacrifice? Abba, do you know that a pe'ah doesn't only mean wig, it also means the end of the field? Who doesn't want their little kids telling them words of wisdom before they go to sleep, instead of the nonsense that you hear people talk during their day? You want more? Torah is the instruction set, and the Chachamim are simply telling us how to read it. Be'ezrat Hashem, this too will be a chizuk for us, for you, for all of Am Yisrael and the righteous Noahides that want to do the will of Hashem, that want more merits, that want more emet, because the emet is the only thing that's worth anything in this world and the next. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen v'Amen.